Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are, to you special peoples out there. Peter Howe from wellnesswithinreach.com with my great friend, old scruffy Will Marsh from Premier Laboratories, Research Laboratories to be exact. We're here today to start wrapping up really what we've been talking about the gut. And it's just, I'll just say it's one of those eighth wonders beyond the seventh wonder, but the eighth wonder of the world, because without our gut functioning, we definitely open ourselves up to so many issues beyond just being bloated. So, or diarrhea, constipation to speak basically. So, today what we're doing is we're wrapping up the biome, the gut, with multiple products, but then we're just going to leave a little hanger with that little question mark, because what we're doing is we're entering allergy season. And if you have been following us, we're building the immune system. And without these little factors, we are more prone to a weaker immune system. So eyes open and ears open. So there we go. So we'll take it. Let's go for the cruise.
Yeah, and as you've been listening and tuning in, I think this series hopefully has been enriching in some capacity. I and Peter and I, we cannot, I think, really summarize the depth and the opportunities and the ways that we can support the gut biome in this series alone. I mean, there's so many different facets to that, and how that system needs that like finesse and support, because it is such an incremental system. And when you think about the gastrointestinal system, it is your most vulnerable. And I know we highlighted that on previous episodes on this podcast in this forum, but essentially, if you're not thinking about your gut in some way or another every day, you're definitely missing a very big opportunity to support your body. And so the goal with today's little episode is to essentially go into some like different nutritive factors that may help to support optimal gut ecology and gut health, biodiversity in the gut. And when you are maybe having that acute flare up or that acute kind of system dysfunction, so to speak, right? We can possibly throw in some, products and some knowledge and some wisdom to kind of, along with, a probiotic protocol, overhaul of the digestive system with enzymes and HCl, going into the emotional awareness and the mastication of just the fact of eating, right? The whole 9 yards in regards to what you really should be looking at in terms of consuming food and optimizing that consumption so that it's working for your body, not against your body. So we'll touch on a little bit of products, rationale why, and then like Peter said, segue into the next episode, which I'm excited for too as well, because it further hits on not only GI, but goes into a whole host strands of inflammation, X, Y, and Z. So with that being ado, I'm actually going to go to our partner's website, wellnesswithinreach.com. As you see here, you can always request a free consultation. And after listening to this podcast, if you'd like to interface with Peter, ask him some questions, get on his consulting, book here so that he can support you on that individual cadence that we really are looking for with our practitioners here at Premier Research Labs. We very much so would encourage that, as he is one of our proud sponsors, and anything you order from wellnesswithinreach.com actually ships from our warehouse here in Austin, Texas. So you're getting the freshest of the fresh. So with the gut and the gut health, and when we think about gut health, our last conversation was about probiotics, and we actually talked about the microbiome 18 and the probiotic Premier. What we're actually going to be kind of exploring are these prebiotic metabolites, postbiotic metabolites, and then actually going into a little bit of rationale of some of the other factors that really can help just nourish a really good gut ecology. And we've kind of hit on some of those already. We talked about the Nucleoimmune, BGF Immune, our fermented products, right? And there's a theme, as you can see, there's a lot of products in the Premier wheelhouse that are essentially very comprehensive in their support paradigms for the gut, right? We're very instrumental in that thinking. And so when we think about the gut axis and the various axes that go around that, I could spend, Peter and I, we'll probably circle back to gut in a couple months, and we'll talk about the different axes, because we have the gut brain axis, we have the gut adrenal axis, we have the gut HPA axis, we have the gut vasovagal axis, even going into all these different systems and how the gut is modulating and signaling and communicating with the body, right? And so when you have dysfunction in those main systems, right? And as we have these episodes and these podcasts weekly, we'll talk about, those systems and how to be kind of supported within the PRL wheelhouse. You'll start to even more so see, how it really impacts overall health and wellness. So what I'm going to go into kind of now would be kind of my fab 4 or 5. We'll see where we land in terms of, exogenous, gut healthy products to throw in that are very, I guess, soothing to the body, because a lot of times when you look at gut dysfunction, it's the gut's very hot, right? If we're going to kind of take that perspective. And so we're wanting to calm that down. And so what's one of my favorite that I think, anybody, and Peter, we can speak to this a little bit. Aloe, a simple aloe product and the benefits of the aloe, and why aloe, right? And so when we look at aloe and when we look at the gut, the aloe mannan as oral aloe and the ace mannan within that, and the healing sugars from the aloe, they have a whole host range of gut beneficial properties. And really what you're looking at here is prebiotics and even postbiotic factors within those healing sugars, and the fermentation of those with the gut bacteria when the actual, when your endogenous ecosystem in the GI breaks down or utilizes that aloe, there's a whole host range of benefits that spread out from there, right? Because the foods you consume and how the body processes that actually can have a host range of metabolic influences to the gut lining, the immune system, and X, Y, and Z going into those gut axes. So one of my favorite products, and this is an old favorite, we've had, it was gone for a while, and our practitioners were vying for it for a very long time, is our Aloe Pro. And I think it's so, you'll probably see this product come up a multitude of times in these kind of webinar sessions that we're having on Wellness Within Reach, just because it can be so instrumental to building, kind of a comprehensive protocol, nourishing the body, helping with nutrient uptake, and helping to calm the gut, and just being very instrumental to kind of sealing the deal, would you say, in regards to gut health, Peter?
Oh, let me just, leaves me speechless. No, but it is, the depth of aloe. I mean, and here again, here's nature. Just where has it been? It's, aloe can be found on every continent, and it's not there just for looking pretty, or exotic.
Not just for the gel you're putting on your skin, right?
Yeah, I mean, just the basics for burns and for sunburn. I mean, it's just and you talked about the gut with heat. So what's a sunburn? Heat. So here we are taking something orally, and it then, as you were saying, has so many factors, cofactors, that start supporting anything from synovial fluid in the joints right down to that calming effect that we get from acid reflux, etc.
Yeah. And this is really where quality matters. And when you look at from your research labs and our quality standpoint, and the importance of knowing your source and understanding what else is in that product. I mean, when you look at our label, even just you can see how much clearer it is. I mean, it's a very simple. You have organic inner leaf, which you don't want the outer leaf, because any component of the outer leaf actually is kind of a known toxin and can actually do more damage to the gut than anything. So you do want a very good inner leaf product, because that fillet, the meat of the aloe and the gel and the components and the healing sugars and all the different phytoactive compounds, that you really want, the meat of that, so to speak, is in the meat of the aloe. There's really no way other around that. But when you look at our product, and I've had rave reviews on this, but the reality of it is it's simply that inner leaf with no added water. And a lot of actually companies do just add a bunch of water, or they add a bunch of emulsifiers, gelling agents, preservative derivatives to bulk up that and give it more volume and make it more jelly. Like if you see an aloe that is essentially just like gel, that there's been some processing to that, to where I'm very questionable of that product, period. So the aloe that you're rubbing on your skin that's in that gel format, there's a lot of different compounds that are essentially, increasing that viscosity, making that into a gel, and really the amount of aloe is going to be very minimal. What you have with our product here is a pure inner leaf aloe, which cannot be understated. It is organic, and we have a natural citric acid stabilizer, which citric acid is found in various fruits and vegetables, or fruits predominantly like lemons, right? And so we do have a natural source for the citric acid here. But in terms of gut protocols and integrations within gut protocols, this fits in there, right in there with the fermented greens. Calcium uptake, mineral uptake, utilization. There's a whole host range of GI protocols that we can, throw forward or benefit forward within the gut by utilizing aloe. And I think it's kind of that it fills in the minutia of what you may be needing. And I just find that it's so incredibly soothing to those that are having kind of that acute flare up. Any words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
Just due to time, I'll just keep forwarding. And I'll just say that such a basic food that nature provides can cover so many issues in the gut and support the whole body in just a plethora of ways, shall we say, that really support us.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where it's thrown into a protocol, and you just find that, especially from a cell resonant energy resonance perspective and what the body is kind of needing and missing, we find that aloe just very much so fills that gap. So wonderful product there. Actually going to go back. I think we've maybe touched on this, we maybe not have, but another product that we do like that actually shows to support gut stress would be our Aloe Mannin, which now Premier Aloe. So there's a little label update needed here, but really when you look at the product, the Premier Aloe is a very robust botanical blend. It has the aloe, the ace mannin, the inner leaf, and then it actually has the main selling point to this is the clay, so the calcium bentonite, which I cannot recall if we've actually talked about Mediclay, but we may have to.
We haven't gotten into the clays yet.
Yeah, we might have to just give a little bit of a teaser because that deserves its own discussion. Yeah, because healing clays and calcium bentonites and their way of helping to soothe the gut and also bind to any illicit materials. There's definitely time and a place to discuss that and the applications of that. So within this product, the Premier Aloe, we are looking at an inner leaf, and then we also have a small amount of the bentonite clay in this current label that you see.
You might look at bentonite as a great little magnet, you could say.
Right. So with the concept of the aloe is you're nourishing, and then you have this magnet to help, as the body releases and relaxes, right? That's typically what we see in detox strategies. The body can help with elimination of those different derivatives that may be in the gut and beyond. So a really little good tidbit there for you to keep in mind. Now, throwing in a lot of people know about glutamine. If you're an athlete on the channel and you're watching this podcast, you're like, oh yeah, I take that for muscle gain. Why are you talking about glutamine in regards to the gut? What most people don't realize is the epithelial tissue that actually lines your gut is the major consumer of glutamine, and essentially it is kind of their energy amino acid for the entire gut system, the epithelial system. And what happens under times of stress, if you're an athlete and you go work out really hard, the body actually pulls that glutamine source to help with amino acid transfer throughout the body and not the gut. And so the gut actually goes under a depletion factor in regards to the amount available to that, and that can be actually stressful to the epithelial tissue within that system. One of my favorite concoctions actually for acute gut stress that you're just trying to calm the system is actually to take our Premier Aloe, which we just talked about, take a couple capsules of the glutamine, open them up, mix them together and slug it down. And it's just a very comprehensive, calming almost beverage that has the healing sugars, which help with uptake and utilization of the glutamine. There's a lot of different co-transport factors in regards to sugar, carbohydrate presence, and then amino acid uptake. But then also you're just essentially providing a really an essential nutrient in my mind to the epithelial lining of the gastrointestinal tract. And as you can see with all of our products, there's not going to be any fillers, there's not going to be any excipients. Essentially, you just have the glutamine and then a nice plant source capsule, which you can always open that up. Or if you're making smoothies like me, I like to just dump a couple in the blender and blend it up, and that provides a little bit of extra fiber. And it essentially it's just a great way to get in a little extra amino acid support. Any thoughts, Peter, to the glutamine?
Oh man, you're doing great. I'll just say, just those two. If you've got an overactive gut, you got a nice little, I'll just say the team is being built right now for
Yeah, and we're building it, and you know, a lot of times with gut strategies, you have this acute inflammatory event. Maybe you eat a food that is a stressor, and your body's just hot, right? You're needing to calm it down. Aloe and glutamine are great products that work synergistically with the body. They touch on a lot of different factors, and the mechanism of action to supporting the GI, I think, is very robust in that manner. So kind of going into so we talked about glutamine, aloe. My third recommendation and fourth actually are going to be fiber derivatives, and as those are going to be the prebiotics that I think are very essential for the effectiveness and kind of the supportive nature of the microbiome, and especially when you look at where you may be depriving and where society as a whole is. Society as a whole is obsessed. Americans, for example, we're very much so a protein focused culture, right? It's how much protein are you getting in? How much of, sometimes we talk about carbohydrates, sometimes we look at fat, but we have this endemic overconsumption of protein and a lack of consumption of fiber. And when you look at the essential, basically longevity factors and just overall gut health, it really is the consumption of fiber that is instrumental to, ensuring proper ecological function, because your body and your gut especially is an ecosystem, and so you want to be consuming a wide variety of fibers, but you also want to be consuming fiber derivatives that are pertinent to gut health. And so our galactin here is a large fiber derivative. It's sourced essentially from it's a arabinogalactin is actually the full derivative, and so what you are looking at sourced from a large tree. And the arabinogalactin actually has immunomodulatory factors and prebiotic fiber factors that have been shown in clinical evidence to be very palliative for when you do have that acute gut stress kind of situation arising. And it's a wonderful pair. I mean, when you think about large fiber, it's one of those fibers that's very slow fermenting. It's almost like a gelling agent in the gut. So what happens is really probiotics and the bacteria in your gut love those gels, those soluble type fibers that when in water, they make this gelling agent that essentially it adds bulk. It kind of fills in the gaps when, especially sometimes you have, hardy grains and other fiber derivatives that, they could be sharp edges and ragged, and the body and basically the microbiota aren't able to kind of access effectively. So then you get poor digestion, right? Which can lead to stressors down the digestive chain, so to speak. And so what we look at with the arabinogalactin is it's just a very rich gelling agent that essentially fills in the gaps, provides a new source of fiber, and promotes a very healthy diversity in terms of microflora in the GI tract. So another one that I love to mix with aloe and make my GI beverage, that I'll keep referencing aloe because the nice thing is you can make these GI supportive beverages, just water, aloe, and throw in some large fiber, and there you go. That's your first thing you're drinking in the morning. So I think that will progress with your daily routine, if anything, as well.
Well, and elimination here again is so important. And galactin is one of those, I'll just say, gentle helpers that can bring forward that regularity that we're all so appreciative of every day.
and that's the thing too. What most people, you have your metamucil fibers or these mass market fibers, and I think there should be a grain of salt when you're looking and kind of perspective on those fibers, because they are not nutrient rich fibers. A lot of times they're just a hull of a plant that have been broken down, isolated, processed, actually bleached in some regards, and really you're looking at an innate material that really doesn't provide the body a nutritive benefit. And what you have here with this large fiber arabinogalactin derivative is it's essentially true large fiber, and we're not processing it further to essentially remove all those phytonutrients and different derivatives that could actually be beneficial to the body as well. The type of fiber you consume is important. The variety of fibers you consume are important. I'm not saying to only consume galactin and large fiber, but it can be a very palliative, kind of meshing fiber if you are having kind of some gut stress that you're needing to support with, and you're wanting to increase the ability for the body to have a very robust, support system in the fibers it's consuming. So galactin, great product just to include in if you're a smoothie guy like me. another one that you can easily.
Yeah, smoothie.
Um, Going into another fiber derivative here, and this is one that we have had, this has different names for a while, but the psyllium fiber premier is our current name. It is in a capsule form, and it essentially is when you look at this product, it's not just a fiber product. It actually has a botanical blends formula that is, it's a plethora, honestly. I mean, you just look at the listing. It is a plethora of whole food fiber derivatives that can help to increase the biodiversity and nourish the gut flora. And when you look, at the traditional American diet, I mean, think about Peter, you can have this thought experiment too with me, and people in the cast today. I want you to take a second and think about how many different foods you consume this week. It's Friday when we're recording this webinar. Can you count all the foods that you consumed in this week on one hand? And what I really mean by that is, how many different plants did you consume this week, right? Did you have your potato? Did you have some romaine lettuce, broccoli, carrot, maybe some tomato, and maybe some onion or garlic, right? Maybe that's about it, right? And when we look and think, and when you think about that, I would encourage you to think about how many more opportunities you have to increase the biodiversity of your gut, because when you lack in the different nutrients that you're consuming, you're essentially limiting the number and the diversity of the ecological system that is inhabiting your gut. And I think that's a very crucial factor that, even us as physicians, we don't really take into effect, is our gut is a ecosystem. I've talked about that a couple times, but we are wanting to encourage various populations of different species of bacteria to inhabit the gut, to make this basically this ecosystem that's flourishing and that's supportive and that's providing us all these nutritive factors, which when you have these fiber derivatives that are in the psyllium fiber, right, when you consume that, you have all these different worker bees, so to speak, going to work, pushing out nutrition, nourishing the body, and just creating this symbiosis with the gut, the brain, the organ gland systems, right? And so that's where diversity comes into play. That's where fiber comes into play. And that's where psyllium fiber potentially has the opportunity to be very supportive. Psyllium fiber is almost like an adaptogenic fiber. When you look at like literature on psyllium fiber, it can be, supportive and actually gelling, meshing the stool, so to speak. And then also if it can help to, if you have a situation where it's over gelled, which that really goes into the liquid component at that point, then it also can help to bring that back together. So I like to think of psyllium as a very adaptogenic fiber. It's wonderful for, cleansing out the bowel and actually kind of providing a sandpaper like scrubbing mechanism. And that's another benefit of fiber too. It helps kind of clean the walls, right? And when you have, food particles and different food boluses just sticking to the walls and staying latched there, that's when you have a potential for overgrowth of bacterial populations, which can manifest into different metabolites that break down the cell, the epithelial tissue and the lining of the GI tract. And then you actually get a situation where those toxins and pollutants are leaking into the gut. And, that's where you get the leaky gut scenario, right? And so when you look at a fiber derivative, that action is there, right? You want to make sure you're promoting that. But what's really, really cool about this product is it not only provides the fiber expert blend, which we call it here, which is the psyllium husk, but it provides this botanical cleanse, which it's about 10 different herbal and botanical derivatives that essentially just provide a diversity to that fiber component and enrich the gut in that way. Peter, any thoughts? Or
Yeah, just in the respect that, we do fall into habits of diet. We get into what's comfortable, what's easy to make, da 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 da. And part is the body gets lazy. And so I happen to use this, on an off and on time to just re-stimulate. So, let's bring in something different. So the body has that aha moment to challenge it and reawaken the systems again. I find that's just such a huge, important part just overall for our immune system. Keep bringing in diversity, as you said, and the body will just respond. And personally, I think it's one of those little fountains of youth for ourselves, being that I'm 95 and still touching my toes. So.
You're going on record right now. You're actually claiming that.
I know,
As you never age, so that's the reality of the situation. Well, and I think that you hit on a very good point there, and as we kind of segue, and I think we'll leave it here for the
Good.
topics and conversations to this. But as we, reflect kind of on the microbiome and the importance of the diversity to that and the ecological system that it creates, we have to realize the implications of optimization, and when you have an optimal gut health, how that is incremental to how the body has a inflammatory reaction or inflammatory profile, an immune profile, right? Because what is the body most likely going to be reacting to on a normal basis? Well, it's the microflora, the microbiota, right? The actual organisms that are inhabiting us directly. And so that's why it's so crucial, if you don't manage gut, you don't encourage gut strategies into supporting your health, you can very much so get to a position in a situation where essentially there are core compromising factors in the immune system because of a dysfunction in the gut, right? And those two systems are so incremental. I think what people don't realize is your gut is literally just one cell thick approximately. And then of course there's mucosal and different muscular tissues, X, Y, and Z, that kind of surround the GI tract, but the actual absorptive layer is literally just an epithelial cells thick. And so what happens there is, if you have a leaky nature or inflammation or an immune reaction that's rampant and it breaks down that system, well, then your body is just going to be stressed in a way that is not going to be beneficial for the overall immune system, right? And that's why when you look at a lot of relationship correlative studies in regards to gut health, and especially microbiota health and microbiota diversity, and autoimmune conditions, and what we see kind of propagating in society, and this increase that's happened over the last 20 or 30 years,
Right.
it comes from really a clear cutting, if we're going to go with that analogy, a clear cutting analogy to the gut diversity that we each inhabits, each of us, right? And so I encourage, and as it is allergy season and people have these runaway immune reactions, I mean, it's March when we're recording this, so if it's not allergy season right now, it'll be allergy season eventually.
Very shortly.
Yeah, very shortly, I will come back.
Yeah.
But a lot of times looking at inflammation and immune and allergies, which those inflammation and immune goes into the allergy, bucket,
1,000%. Yeah.
they can have a basis within the gut. And so I look forward to kind of diving into that over the next couple episodes. Peter, you have closing thoughts?
Well, I have a couple of closing thoughts, and that is, while we're waking up here, and Will was really starting to touch upon it, and that is the challenges that our body really is presented now, especially in the last 30, 40 years, with the use of herbicides, insecticides, etc. And one of them being our friend Roundup and its little co-partner there to help in with brew is glyphosate. And glyphosate is so connected to disrupting our dear old gut and digestive processes, neurological processes, you name it.
Yeah.
So, and it's in our water, it's in our food, it's in even your organic stuff these days. And one thing about the psyllium fiber you'll notice is our friend cilantro. So amazing for those heavy metals and pulling stuff out. And so, this is where again, to Premier, because they're really taking in all these environmental cofactors. They're taking in the stressors and using nature to, shall we say, reawaken the body and keep it in a process of opening, but rebuilding and revitalizing all the time. Without the vitality in our bodies and that essential, really vibrancy that we get from Premier, or a real live fruit, a real live piece of vegetable, we are really doomed as a human species if we keep on the track. Pardon my preaching. But this is where I love Premier, because they get it and they're really doing something about it to support our well-being. And that's where I say I've said enough, most likely, until the next time.
I honestly, I wish we could just keep talking, because yeah, the reality of the situation, and the food system that we have, and what is plaguing our gut and breaking down the gut. I mean, we maybe, as we go into allergies, we'll just talk a little bit more about the gut, because honestly, people need to. It is awakening, right? And it is an awakening moment to the compounding factors that, when we look at the trajectory of society, and where we're going as a culture, there needs to be a hard stop, right? There needs to be a wake up call and say, when is health a priority, and when are we going to enrich various systems to not only support our health, but to support, and really this goes into the health of the planet and the health of the environment around. I mean, there's this whole conversation we can have, and
Great conversation.
right. And so I think that deserves its time, and we can leave it there. But just like you said, our goal here at Premier Research Labs is to make sure that you can trust the supplements, and the supplements that you're taking are working for you, because the importance here is we live in a world that is contaminated with a whole host range of variety of factors, and you have to trust the manufacturer and know that they're doing the due diligence to ensure that that quality standard, so that those mycotoxins, heavy metals, foreign contaminants that are really apparent in our society and in our world, are not there in a concentration that could detrimentally harm and trigger further further ailments, because it's essentially polluted. And so when we talk about gut health, and we talk about allergies, we'll talk about probably every organ gland system there is in the human body, and actually the organ gland system of the world. Know that you need to really be taking that into account. So
and I'll just add, the body knows. So if you feed it the right stuff, you give it the right direction by removing interference fields, which we talked about way back when. We start getting this on track, thinking the right thoughts, opening this up. There's no way that as an individual we can't thrive. So if you really enjoy feeling bloated, having all sorts of health issues, never mind what I just said, but there is a way out and a way forward for all of us. And I just, why I'm doing what I'm doing is because Premier really did save my life in a moment where I didn't have much left, and through massive infections, Lyme disease, etc. Premier was there right at my time. So keep asking questions to you all. And Will, any other quick moment, and then we'll sign off?
I just want to thank you all for this forum and this session, and it's always a pleasure to be with Peter, and I look forward to the many more. So if you guys have questions, if you are needing support, needing that practitioner to help you guide, Peter is here with wellnesswithinreach.com, and I would definitely give him a shout, because I think the mission and the mission statement and the integrity behind it, he is a great representation of what a true PRL practitioner is. And then Wellness Within Reach can always be a resource for our product line here at Premier Research Labs. And so thank you all for just being aware, and hopefully maybe having a little bit of a dial, flipped or switched there. And I look forward to future conversations.
And I'll just say, share it with friends. If this actually resonates to you all, share it, pass the word. Health is there for us. And with that, till the next time, big hugs to everyone and great blessings. So over and out from here, Peter Howe, wellnesswithinreach.com. See y'all.